my name is Tom Emrich. Welcome to the very first We Are Wearables Chicago. I am the founder of We Are Wearables. We Are Wearables got started back in Toronto in January. We're over 2,000 members in total, so I'd like to welcome you to the movement, the family. So wearables have definitely had a fantastic year this year. A lot of hype, a lot of buzz, a lot of market traction, a lot of new products, a lot of new companies. But what are some of the challenges that wearable technology faces in terms of adoption? And more importantly, how is this new wave of computing impacting or will impact our everyday lives, from work to life to play? That's what we're going to be discussing today. You've met Dickon Isaacs, who's the design director from Motorola. Beside him is Alexander Smith, who's the CPO and co-founder of AMPY, a kinetic energy charger, a wearable charger that just killed it on Kickstarter. Congratulations. Thank you. And then Adam Tilton is the CEO and co-founder of Rithmio, a gesture tech platform. So we're going to have a conversation about this, guys. And I think the first thing I wanted to start off with is this concept of wearable technology being new, but really it's not new, is it? We've seen heart rate monitors, chest straps, medical devices in the hospital. Why is the time right for wearable technology to be hitting the mainstream now? Maybe we'll start with Dickon. Why don't we start with you, and we'll head down the.
Sure. I think it's a combination of things. I think there's a certain maturity in some of the core technology that just has to happen to enable the right sorts of objects. If batteries and displays are too big, if some of the core sort of components are just not at a scale where it feels like it can really sort of conform and fit to your body, then people aren't going to adopt it in large scales. I think what we're seeing right now is there's also some of these breakthroughs, in, I would like to think of it in terms of Moto 360 as well, where there are these people having convictions of ideas that are very strong ideas that may be hard to realize, but they're the things that help sort of propel the industry and give excitement and awareness to the industry where people want to be involved. I think those things create a community around business investment, so financial investment. I think that platforms like Kickstarter that are phenomenal, where people are trying new products. So I think it's going to happen over time. I do sort of feel like it is just the beginning, though. Rick and I and the team have been at it for 10 years. So I used to lead our companion products team, so we did all the Bluetooth products. So I've been working in wearables for probably, I'd say, 10 years now. It's often about design and technology and the market also just being open,
Right.
So, yeah, it's exciting.
So Adam, on the gesture tech side, that's a whole new way to control technology. So what's made it possible, do you think, for gesture to be a viable input for today? We're so used to clicking things and tapping things, and touchscreen still feels new to some people, arguably. Voice hasn't, is still trying to find its way. What's making the inroads for gesture that you're seeing on your side?
Yeah, sure. So I think there are sort of two parts to solving the gesture problem. One is you need the sensing information, right? So wearables are a great way now to have that information. People are going to be wearing motion sensing devices on their wrist that provides them the opportunity for you to do gesture, and the next then is providing an accurate and reliable solution. So you don't want to engage with an input mechanism that doesn't work or doesn't work the way that you want it to. So providing that accurate and reliable solution, I think, is the next part, and that's what we're working on at Rithmio, is enabling these motion sensing devices through reliable and accurate gesture recognition. And as you rightfully mentioned, then you have sort of a natural way to connect the digital and physical world. So now, you have a wristwatch, tells you notifications, time, but now it also connects you to other devices, cell phones, laptops, et cetera, and extends your, presence into the digital world, I think, a little bit further. Yes,
Okay. Yeah, and battery life, let's keep the conversation going. Obviously, an issue you must be finding, Alexander, since that's your Kickstarter's entire thesis there. So is that really what's holding us back? Is that one of the main factors, would you say?
Sure. I mean, so lithium-ion battery technology doesn't follow a sort of Moore's law of shrinking. It progresses slowly, and I think that is one of the limiting factors. And I think a lot of products, especially wearables on the market, have a hard time getting to the end of the day, and that really is a limiting factor. A lot of wearable devices, they're designed to either connect better with yourself, such as figuring out, your heart rate, figuring out, all these biometric information, or helping you connect better with the people around you and the whole world through, communication. Okay, I can check my watch instead of pulling out my phone. But that connection, that communication is really cut off if you run out of battery life, and it can be almost a terrifying thing at the end of the day to have your phone die, to have your wearable devices die. And so that's what we're trying to do is give the power back to you and empower you as a person to be able to move and use your movement to power some of these wearable devices.
Okay. Before we move on, just let's keep the mic up to your mouth. Just a little tip. I'm just getting some hand gestures over there at the corner. Thank you, Ken. What are some of the other challenges that are causing, perhaps wearables to be, slower in its adoption rate? Battery is obviously one. Fashion design, is that tricky? Dickon,
Yeah, I was going to say fashion and design is, well, I mean, if you look at some of the things that have been designed maybe over the last 5-10 years, they leave a lot to be desired, is a nice way to put it. I think as a design group, fashion and lifestyle and trying to push the boundaries of using new materials in the space, I think is a big focus for us as a team. Again, there's a lot of challenges with designing things like this in terms of sort of comfort and fit to the skin, and some people have skin sensitivities. Right? There's all these things that you have to work for. Can't be too light, can't be too heavy. People have their own style, and for a long time, consumer electronics have been, it's silver and black, and if you don't like that, sorry. And what's cool about wearables is, like, we don't have to think that way. And definitely with watches, what's cool is we have a number of elements. So we have the watch face digitally, that we can create something that's personal, that we can allow someone to choose the watch face that fits their mood, fits their style. That's a big deal to someone. That's going to make them want to wear that and show it to other people. Materials in the bands as well, having metal and leather, like that's a fashion choice, that's a style choice. And so yeah, absolutely. I think fashion and lifestyle, if companies working in the wearable space spend actually some time understanding consumers, understanding global trends, that's what we do. We have a team that focus on that. If you can understand that and you can catch that at the right point with your products, you can really take off. You can really sort of capture the imagination. And it varies globally as well. So that's one of the things that we're still, to be honest, learning more about. If you're selling in North America, that's maybe a different design, color, material, finish choice that you would make if you were going to maybe sell something in Europe or in Asia.
Adam, you something to add?
Yeah, the other part that I would say besides design and what makes a wearable important to someone, or what is it about a wearable that allows them to express themselves, is the way that they engage with it. So how is it useful to you in your life? And I don't think that we've seen, the Moto 360 I think has gotten the closest. I've been wearing one for about 3 weeks, and no other wearable device has lasted on my wrist that long, because it does provide some sort of utility to me during the day when I'm out moving around. I'm in a meeting and someone sends me an email, I want to get a quick glance. This kind of utility I think is, just the type of individual that I am. I appreciate that usefulness in my life, and I think as wearables continue to evolve over the next couple of years, you'll start to see them become a part of the way that you live, maybe in a way that we're not thinking about today, as well as an expression of who you are as an individual. They'll allow you to express not just who you are through the way that it looks, but also who you are through what you use it to do and accomplish.
Yeah, a quick build on that. We do talk about this thing, around making something sticky. From an interaction design point of view, Rick, you can ask him about this. The interaction has to be sticky. It has to be something that gives you value every day, right? So obviously with this, telling the time, right, that's sticky. Like, it has to work. The gesture has to work, right? So when I turn my wrist, it needs to be able to light up. and show me what the time is. If it doesn't, I might wear it for a couple of days, and then I'm going to put it in the drawer with a bunch of other things that I've bought, and eventually I became disappointed at them. Most of you have these things, these devices that have lost their relevancy and their meaning and their value, and we focus on that a lot as a team.
Yeah.
Making something sticky, providing, like you said, daily value. So you want to go back to it. You're not going to take it off because now, over time, hopefully it's crept into your ritual. And so you wake up in the morning, you take it off the charger, and if you forget, it should force you to go back and get it. If you can do that, then you've designed something that's really powerful.
Yeah, so I have the luxury of being able to pitch an idea around wearable tech all the time, and one of the things that we say is if you forget your cell phone at home, you're going to go back and get it, right? But if you forget your activity tracker, which is part of the space that we're in, you're not likely to leave work to go home and get your activity tracker. In fact, after about 6 months, 50% of purchasers of these devices leave them in a drawer somewhere. They quit wearing them. They don't have that stickiness factor yet.
So that's a good segue to my next question, which is value proposition sometimes is fuzzy with a lot of the wearable technology devices. Some question the need to have a wearable because they have a smartphone. So I want to talk just a quick bit about this relationship between mobile and wearables. Is this idea that wearables are going to usurp mobile and allow us to leave mobile at home way too early? Is it a myth? Is it just causing way too much confusion, especially in the smartwatch space? Right. What do we see here? Maybe, I don't know, Alexander, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure. So, I feel that the sort of core interaction between that and between like a smartwatch or some interaction, it is that barrier that you need to get over in order to okay, so I actually work in a laboratory a lot. So if I've got gloves on or something like that, I don't want to be able to reach into my pocket. Same if I'm preparing food. But if I just sort of, I actually have a Pebble watch. Sorry, I haven't bought a 360 yet.
It's
so
okay.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you after.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah. Well, hopefully I'll win this Twitter competition. Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah. So I think I wouldn't say it's one or the other. I think that you're going to find a combination between these wearable devices and the way that they extend the utility of mobile. And then I would, also say, well, what is mobile, right? I mean, why does it have to be mobile, right? There are some things that, I think a cell phone are more natural for. Mobile devices are more natural for than a smartwatch. I don't think this is ever going to be the way that I speak on the phone to people, but my cell phone rings and it's in a bag and I want to silence it. The great way to do that is through a wearable device, right? I mean, there are a number of other applications where you can think about how the utility on the wrist now extends the utility of your cell phone in a way that a cell phone simply can't. And it's that, the sum of the parts is, anyway, cool ideas for wearable and mobile to come together.
Yeah, just to add to that, at Motorola we talk about social etiquette of technology a lot. And I have to find where it is. If someone calls me and I want to see what the message is, if I do this action and I pull it out my phone and I do this, that's borderline rude. I might be having a nice conversation with someone and I didn't necessarily have to do that. I didn't have to maybe break the flow of that interaction with that other person. I can just glance and see who it is and I can decide whether or not to politely excuse myself from that situation and then maybe take the call and call them back. Right, so social etiquette I think is a huge area for wearables where there's a lot of opportunity there around developing and designing products that can blend into someone's everyday in a way that means that it doesn't replace this by any means, but it certainly augments it in a way where it gives you different value that this just doesn't give you because it's not here, or it's not here, or it's not here. It's in your pocket or in your bag, and so it's limited because of that.
I think there are still barriers to this social etiquette thing that as a society we're just going to have to get used to. I think when the iPhone first came out, you pull it out of your pocket and people would say, "Whoa, is that an iPhone?" And now if you pull it out of your pocket, people are saying, "Okay, you get to pick up the tab at dinner because we were playing phone stacks or whatever." I've been in a meeting before and I've had a buzz on my wrist from my smartwatch and I just glance down and the person I'm meeting with says, "Oh, do you have to go?" And I'm thinking, no, I was just, I had this buzz on my wrist. And, I think that this, there is still a way to go to get to the point where it's a non-invasive way of notifying us.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about how our communication is changing with wearable devices. So with our smartphones, we had calling. We started to use voice, but with wearables, we have almost like a new way to use LEDs, and haptic feedback is really huge. So there's a little way to play with nonverbal communication with wearables that maybe we didn't do with smartphones. How do you see wearable tech changing our communication in almost the same way that smartphones brought text messaging and emoji? What's the akin for wearables? Any thoughts?
Well, I don't know if you're talking about maybe sort of interpersonal communication, the way that I might communicate with you or you might communicate with me. But what about the way that we just communicate in general with ourselves? Using wearables to find out more about how we move, how we our wellness, the way that we interact with technology. I think that it'll open up new opportunities for us to better understand maybe wellness is a great example. You're wearing a wearable device and it teaches you over time. I know the Moto 360 does this. You were talking today in your presentation about finding your averages.
Right.
Are you moving as much as you're supposed to be moving? I can guarantee you that before I started wearing this device, I had no idea how many steps I took on average in a day. Still not sure if it's exactly the amount of steps that I take in a day, but it's certainly a lot closer. And I think that that's where you'll start to see wearable tech and maybe opening up sort of communication in a way, if I can take it in that direction.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on communication, Dickon?
I think there's a level of discretion as well with wearable products that a handheld device, again, it doesn't have, because all of a sudden it's here, it's more visible. And so, emoji and emoticons, that kind of stuff, now that's fairly common and pervasive. I think there are new types of interaction that people haven't dreamt up yet. We haven't thought about how we can do it and utilize things that are discreetly on our body. To your point, I think there's gesture-based behaviors, gesture-based actions that could maybe unlock ways to communicate with people that we haven't looked at yet. Tons of opportunity, I think. And again, I think it comes back to the enabling technology to allow us to experiment and play with software and hardware and develop new things. So obviously you guys are here because you're interested in wearables. I'd say keep prototyping, keep iterating. That was one of the key points I wanted to get through tonight is, first time you do it, it's probably crude and not that great looking and maybe a bit rubbish, but if you get a prototype to sort of show you the result that you were looking for in your idea, then you're on a path, keep going, build another one, get other people into it, try and really solve that problem, extend that problem. So yeah, early days, but I think there's a lot of opportunity. I think discretion is a huge part of new ways of communication that we haven't really seen yet.
So Adam, you mentioned this way to communicate with our body. I'm interested, how many of you know what your resting heart rate should be? So 4. How many of you know the version of operating system on your smartphone? Yeah. So I'm wondering, like, this idea that we go back to usefulness and knowing our body, I think it's an interesting play on communication. This ability for us to start to know ourselves. It's almost a shame that we know more about our peripherals than we do about our own body. But is the data reliable? Is the data enough? Are steps enough? Is heart rate enough? And then furthermore, if it is, are we even ready to do something with it because we never really did anything with it before? What do you think? I know it's a loaded question.
Yeah, that's a complicated one. So, I'd say that the human body is a whole lot more complicated than the smartphone that we carry around. So, knowing something about the cell phone, that comes with a specification sheet, your body doesn't necessarily come with the same specification sheet. And I don't know that gathering a bunch of data, although that will certainly help, speaking more as an academic now, I guess, than a technologist, gathering that data might not have all the answers that we think that it will. Once you have it, you have to then make sense of it, and you have to be able to find some sort of, we just need to be careful that we think more about, how we use that data in terms of predictive analysis, wellness, making people's lives healthier, telling them about their health. I don't know exactly what we're going to find, but certainly I think that having a wearable device, maybe not steps, but as we get to heart rate, oxygen levels in the blood, more about motion and tying that over long time scales to general wellness of an individual, yeah, definitely there will be opportunities for improving on health and knowing more about your body. Yeah, that's a tough, health and wellness I think is a difficult one to, to really imagine what the future is going to look like when you have wearable devices on every person.
Right.
And with difficult consequences if you sort of get it wrong, especially as you get away from heart rate and things like that to if you can have something do blood checks or something like that, that if you get it wrong, then someone could die of diabetic shock, something. So I think that the consequences of getting it wrong when you enter that sort of space, it's a risky area to even enter.
And there are health wearable devices. I mean, when I was first starting to think about wearable, one of the early people that I talked to about wearable tech was someone who had diabetes and wore an insulin pump. And they said, oh yeah, wearable tech, I've had that for a long time. And they, I don't know that there are going to be health solutions that magically pop out of wearable devices. I'm not sure that I see the roadmap, but I certainly think there's a lot of reason to believe that, in many years we'll develop interesting use cases around health and wellness.
Yeah, I think there's, as well as the technical side of things, at Motorola, our design team are thinking a lot about the psychological side of what happens when you wear this device, and if you're being kind enough to accept this device on your wrist and it's going to learn sort of what you're doing over time, I think a lot of the challenges people have had up till now is they'll wear a device maybe for a week or 2 weeks or a month, and they get data, but they don't know what to do with it. So they get data and they get a chart, maybe graphically it looks nice, it's in a nice blue color, but they don't know what to do with that. They're like, okay, great, but what does that mean? Like, what does that mean to me? So we're really excited about some of the things we're working on where it's addressing the things where giving people encouragement, telling people what this stuff means to them, giving them suggestions about how maybe they can slightly, not massively, but slightly modify their behavior. If you did more of that, you might get to this picture. If you did less of this, you have this rubbish meeting that's in the middle of the day on Thursdays and your energy levels are really bad. Maybe there's a time where maybe you should just not go to that meeting. Or if you don't have the option, maybe do something before it so at least when you come out you're a bit more refreshed. So there's a lot to it. Obviously it's marrying sort of the technology side of it with the psychological side of it and presenting that information to people in a beautifully designed way that makes them feel like, okay, this is cool. Again, this is something that's sticky because it's helping me. It becomes more of a companion rather than just a gadget.
Our little way of sort of addressing the health and wellness space is actually by providing a somewhat tangible reward for being active, for being fit. If you walk your 10,000 steps, Fitbit will give you a smiley face. We'll give you an extra 3 hours of battery life for your phone. Same if you go on a 30-minute run. So that's the sort of motivation that can provide you, the motivation you need to get off your butt and go for a run,
I think it's going to be like I went to Paris and saw those little bikes at the airport because people are trying to charge their smartphones. Right. I think it's going to be an exciting time to see people out with AMPY just like running around the block trying to get their iPhone, Motorola, or Android device up and going.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to open the floor up to questions from the audience. So questions here. We have a mic runner, so want to head on to the back? Gotta run.
Hello?
Yeah.
I was wondering, at what point in your design process do you start considering security? Because this is a device that is obviously paired with your smartphone, probably I'm assuming over Bluetooth, low energy. When do you start considering security as far as like securing the data that is on the devices? And also, security is also a vulnerability to your smartphone.
Great question. So yeah, concerns of wearable devices with sharing your content. The nice thing is you would have to lose your watch and your phone. That would be a really bad day. If the way it works is basically the watch and your phone are in proximity, right? So when they lose that connection, if someone happens to take your watch, there's no information on it. right? So that information is stored securely, and someone can then take that and sell it on the black market. That's what happens most of the time. It happened to my wife a couple of weeks ago. Someone stole her iPhone. That was it. It was gone. Most of the time these things, people aren't looking for the information. Most of the time they're just looking for that thing to get, $20 to buy a couple of 40s. It's an important thing though. So yeah, we do design in the experience, so we make sure that there isn't anything, sensitive that stays on the watch if for some reason you lose it or leave it behind. So, yeah, good question.
Another question? Oh, okay.
Could you speak a little bit to the kind of market strategies that each of you have, and obviously, talking about fashion or, consumer electronics versus other kind of tangential markets that wearables are moving into?
You want to go first?
Go for it.
Yeah, sure. So we just wrapped up our Kickstarter campaign last night, so we're still in the process of securing distribution channels. In the future, we're actually planning iterations of our product where we integrate directly into wearables to provide all the power that they need. So that's an exciting prospect for the future.
Yeah, for us, we're not in consumer space so much as we are in the B2B space. We provide our software platform and make it available for a variety of different market segments like activity tracking, human-computer interaction, healthcare, security, industrial manufacturing. So our strategy is a bit maybe geared towards attracting those hardware partners and getting them to integrate our software to go and achieve together a use case.
Yeah, for our business strategy around wearables, Moto360 was in some ways an experiment to see how disruptive we could be, and how focused innovation can really sort of make a big impact. And our strategy is that we don't work on a lot of products at the same time. We believe that focus in terms of your portfolio and your resources gains better results in the long run. And so our business strategy is tied to our sort of internal resourcing strategy. So we have core dedicated teams that are rewarded by success. So they have deep ownership in the products, at every level of the team. And I think what we're seeing is, because we saw Moto360 sort of capture the imagination, we are looking at expanding into other markets, but we're not going to expand sort of ahead of ourselves. We're going to be diligent about understanding the markets that we're going to go into, and we understand that certain cultures there are different challenges. Maybe in some markets there are even greater concerns over security, and the question that you mentioned earlier. So, we have to make sure we understand those markets deeply before we decide that we're going to develop and launch products into those markets. But over time, I think wearables is a space that we are committed to for the long haul. And so Moto360 is just the beginning.
We'll do one more question. Burning question here.
In the front.
So, what's your name, Tom?
Tom. Yeah.
Tom, I think you did a fabulous job of arranging all the speakers and how they work together. You've got the wearable, and you've got gestures, and you've got the battery. And I see in the future this all being able to work together. Most of the day I'm at a computer, but other times I'm cooking or I'm playing with my son, and it's nice, this idea of not having to reach in your pocket. I'm really excited about wearables taking over the smartphone. I'd rather just have my tablet and whatever my wearable device is for phone calls and everything like that. Do you see any future where we don't have a cell phone anymore?
I think some people are trying to figure out how to do it, for sure. There are some products that have embedded antennas, so they have connectivity up to the satellite and up to the cloud. Those devices, though, aren't the most attractive products yet, and they're not the most wearable in terms of, again, wearing something all day, delivering the comfort that we think that's the bar that we need to hit. So people are having a go at it. I think it's a matter of time Will it replace it? I don't think so, because again, what I want to talk about before is bite, snack, and meal. You know, there are interaction constraints having a small display. You can do some amazing stuff here, especially with the power of voice. You can obviously do a lot, but until we find out new formats that maybe we haven't even designed yet, you know, I think these are extensions. They are devices that have value in their own right. Not necessarily this idea that, okay, well, this is going to get to a point where it's going to replace your phone. But there are use cases where you want to be free and you don't want to worry about your phone, and you could maybe take your watch and that's enough. So I think in certain parts of someone's life, you can have an example where you don't have to worry about your phone. But I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah, I would agree with everything. Yeah, that's exactly how I see it. Is that the sum of the parts is greater than any one of the individual parts. You'll have use cases that will be enabled because you have both, and it will be difficult to replicate that use case using just one or the other.
So not yet, folks. Thank you so much for the panelists. Big round of applause.
Yeah,
Dickon,
thank you.
Adam, Alexander. Thank you. Thank you.